Hi there everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to my channel. Amongst other things, I'm a reenactor and a jouster, and all of that takes a lot of research, and that often involves talking to people online and chatting to people online. And one of the things that will often come up in internet discussions is how wrong someone is, so much so that there are memes have been made about it. Various online jokes about how you need to, if someone's wrong on the internet, then you can't sleep. You need to tell them what's true and what's right. And recently, over the Christmas period, there's been various discussions with people getting quite heated about historical stuff in groups that I've been involved in. So I thought I'd do a video on the art of being wrong. Now, this is something that I feel that I'm very much qualified to speak on, because I've been wrong an awful lot. One of the things as a teacher you realise is that your class may pay attention to varying amounts, but if you ever make a mistake, then your class will pick up on it absolutely immediately, straight away. So yeah, I've definitely been wrong, and it's definitely been pointed out to me as well. So here are some thoughts on why I think it's important to embrace being wrong in our studies, and particularly in regards to historical studies, but just generally in life. I think it's good anyway. So first of all, I'd say that being wrong is a good thing. First of all, it's how we learn. None of us start out knowing everything. In fact, when we're born, we know practically nothing at all. We even need to learn how to eat and drink and things like that. So, we've learned everything that we know, and all of those things we've learned through being wrong and experimenting and getting to the right point. So it's how we learn as an individual, but it's also how we learn as a society and as a species. So historically, you go back however many years, people had incorrect ideas. But through those incorrect ideas, they were then able to test those ideas, find out those ideas were wrong, and then get to the correct idea. So it's really important that we realise that if you are ever to find out that you are wrong in any way, then actually this is a good step towards being right and learning. So actually, if you find out that you are wrong, as a kind of step on from this, if you find out that you are wrong, then you should actually be just as excited as if you find out that you are right, because that means that you are moving towards the truth. Okay, so in any study, the truth should be the most important thing. So whether you're studying history or science or whatever, the truth should be the most important thing. And that means that if you ever find out that you're wrong, you can be excited because you've now made a step towards finding out what the truth actually is. Even if you don't know it yet, even if you've just found out that you're wrong and you don't know what the right thing is, you've at least made a step away from ignorance and towards truth. Finally, another reason why it's good to be wrong, and being wrong is a good thing, this is just kind of a bit of a statement of fact, is that we are obviously going to be wrong sometimes. Okay, so in fact, none of us are perfect. A lot of the time we're going to be wrong about things. And so when you find out you are wrong, that is a good thing. It shouldn't be a surprise to you that when things are pointed out that you are wrong, because it's obvious that there will be some things you are wrong in. And so therefore, there's nothing to be upset about. It's just that you have discovered an area where you are wrong, and it is obvious that you would have been wrong in some areas anyway. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me. Okay, so how can we happily be wrong? So first of all, I would say realise that we don't have all the evidence. Now that is you individually, but also us as a whole group. Okay, so so whatever evidence you have been working on may not have been the whole picture, right? So that means that there's no ego lost in getting it wrong if you only had half of a picture. You know, you might have said, oh, that's a horse, but it turned out it was a centaur because you could only see the back half, right? So in not having all of the evidence, when new evidence comes to light, then you can go, oh yeah, okay, I was wrong about that. I only had half of the picture, so it's fine. Okay, and also as a whole society and as a historical society and things like that, we only have some of the evidence. So in fact, you might find out that you're wrong about something. You might find a slightly better idea, but still that new thing may still be wrong, because as a society we're only working with the evidence that we have. Obviously we can't work with evidence that we don't have. Secondly, the evidence is open to interpretation. Now you need to be aware of biases with this, okay? And unfortunately a lot of the conversations online, people are very happy to point out other people's bias, but they also kind of feel like they are immune to biases. Okay, so in my own personal experience, I had someone who was we were discussing the length of spears. If you know, that's something that's really interesting to some people and completely unimportant to most. We're discussing the length of spears, and they showed all of these images saying, oh, spears need to be twice the height of a human, and they showed all of these photos of paintings where the spears were twice the height of a human. And then I showed some images of shorter spears, roughly about the same height as a human, and they said their criticism of my sources was, well, that's just an artist's interpretation. Okay, so they were obviously working on a bias. Any evidence that backed up their point of view was fine, but any evidence that went against theirs was inadmissible. So so you need to be aware that your own biases will colour what you think you know. Okay, and so therefore when new things start coming out, or when someone points out your biases, which are natural, by the way, we all have them, then holding those lightly and letting go of your biases easily is a really good thing, and it helps us to get towards the truth. Okay, another one, realize that you don't need to choose one theory or another. Okay, there's no points for being in the winning group. If you are not sure, if you're looking at the evidence and you're going, one thing, here's another thing, then you can present both of them and say, look, I just don't know. I think it's equally likely either one, or I think it's 70-30 either one. Or maybe, you know, it's possible that both of them are wrong, and there is there is some other evidence that we don't know yet that is going to prove a third theory to be absolutely correct. So remember, you don't need to choose to come down on one side or the other. Learn both sides of the argument, so then you know them both, and then you can hold them both as possible answers, and you don't need to choose which one you think is the absolutely correct one. Here's another thing. I see this happening all the time, and I think it is such a dangerous slope to be on. Don't link your identity to your opinion. Okay, see this kind of thing all the time. You know, that I've been studying this for 20 years and this is the way it is, right? Okay, that just doesn't work. I think it's one of the logical fallacies, but if it isn't, then it should be. If you start linking your identity to your opinion, then you will find it much harder to admit that you're wrong, because when you're incorrect in such a situation, then it's bad, not just from the point that point of view, but it also takes away something of your identity. You know, these 20 years of study have been for nothing because I was wrong about this. No, you don't need to do that. Okay, you can mention that you're 20 years. Okay, well, I think this, you know, I've been studying it for quite a while, but I'm open to other ideas. But don't come down really hard and basically just back it up with your 20 years. Or, you know, whatever it is, whatever your identity is. You know, I'm a jouster and so therefore I must be right. Or I've been reenacting with this group and so therefore I must be right. And here's why. You know, let's go back. We don't have all of the evidence. Okay? So, yes, you might be have been studying for a really long time, and to the best evidence that you had, that, you know, that was correct. But new evidence is coming up all the time, and so, you know, your experience might come to nothing when one or two new pieces of evidence come up and, you know, suggest something completely different. A really good example of this, the Bashford Dean, he was studying for a really long time, but a lot of the you know, he's become a byword in historical circles for armours that have been put together wrong, because of his own particular ideas about what armour should look like, and because he didn't have all of the evidence that we have now. So don't link your identity to your opinion. It leaves you shaky, and it leaves you unlikely to admit that you're wrong. And here's another thing. Okay, so if you're concerned about, you know, actually, you know, what does this say about me if I admit that I am wrong? Remember that your knowledge is actually not just yours. So there's that well-known phrase, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and that sort of thing. None of us, very, very, very few of us have actually gone out and handled the materials and weighed the weapons and the armor that we're studying, okay? And actually, there was a really interesting video from Matt Easton, Scholar Gladiatoria, recently, where he's had the opportunity to go to the Royal Armouries and study some of the weapons there and actually hold them in his hands. And he found out that some of the measurements and sketches that he had read in a previously published book by a very famous person were actually incorrect. Okay, so your knowledge may be based on scholarly studies, but it might turn out that you're not so much standing on the shoulders of giants, but that you're standing on the shoulders of regular people who also make mistakes, and who also have their own biases, and who also actually didn't have all the evidence. So hopefully, if you can kind of accept all of these things, then that allows you to be wrong and be happy about it. Okay, and once you've done that, then that actually frees you up quite a lot. It means that you can move towards the truth no matter what, without ego getting involved, and it means that your discussions online can be a lot friendlier. Okay, when someone is saying that you're incorrect, they aren't attacking you as a person. When someone is saying that, you know, they've got some new evidence, it doesn't threaten you anymore, because your previous knowledge is just that. It's just previous knowledge. It's okay if that knowledge actually is challenged. If it's true, then it will come out the other side. If it isn't true, then that's great, because we get to the truth. Okay. Yeah, what do you guys think? I think this is a really important thing in education. It's actually, there's a whole theory around it. It's called growth mindset, and it's the complete acceptance that we are traveling towards our own betterment, and that actually being wrong is a good thing, and getting things wrong is a way to learn. I teach my class a great quote from Batman. It's, why do we fall? It's so that we can learn to get back up. And I kind of bring that into to all of my historical studies as much as I can. It's really easy to fall into, you know, I'm right, you're wrong, bang the drums kind of thing. But I'd love to hear your opinions. Please leave them in the comments. I do read all of them, and it really kind of makes me really excited about doing this channel and all of that sort of thing. If you'd like to support the channel, then check out my merch shop. There's a link down below, or share and like and subscribe and all of those things if you haven't already. Thank you very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.